Okay, get started. Okay, so welcome to ABCD-OpenScholar April. Today we're going to talk about design and layout widgets. And so, but as I always do, I'm going to take us into, if I can get this to work, how you can get help. So as always, there's a lot of opportunities to get help if you're having problems with your site or you want to research something. So we've got the community forum, and this is a great place where you can suggest ideas, vote for features, report issues, get responses from the development team. Help desk support, if you want, you can email into ithelp@harvard.edu. It gets sent over to our group. The more information you can provide us up front, the better. So URL, issues, screenshots, the more you give us up front, the better. We can help you sooner. There are platform trainings. So if you have not been to an OpenScholar platform training, you should attend. And then we've got our documentation website that's up. And the roadmap actually recently changed, so I'm going to show you that now. In our last release, which was 2 days ago, one of the main features that we focused on was making the roadmap easier to understand. So the roadmap is where we basically publicize what we are working on, new features, bug fixes, infrastructure upgrade type of things. And then we've got an area called hot fixes. And hot fixes are for things that happen immediately. So it's like a really big problem, and so it has to happen. But we do track it here. So all of these link, or any of these, link to community posting. So if you want to say, all right, so this new feature, complete the publication form, we can see not only that it's linked to a community post, and I'll do that now. Oh, wow, look at that. I didn't even know it did that. That's pretty great. How do I get out of there? Here we go. But also you can see that it's yellow, which means it's still in development. So while they are planning on releasing it April 28th, something is stopping them, and they're still working on developing it. But the ones in black, you can see that they're done. You know, green is for testing, review, design, pending, etc. So we do a 6-week release cycle. Normally this one is a little bit shorter. So we'll start planning next week, and so you'll see new things show up here. But there's different tabs of past improvements and development, planned, to be reviewed. So to be reviewed is the area where we will think about what we're going to do for this next release, and then they'll get pushed to the in development tab. Does anyone have any questions about that? All right. So moving on, we're just going to quickly review about what is a widget. So as you know, there's lots of different widgets on the OpenScholar platform, but a widget is basically a box of content, a little piece of content that can be displayed in different regions on your site, such as the footer or the sidebar. You can put it in the main content area of any page layout on your site. Currently, we've got categories. All the widgets fall under content widgets, media widgets, social widgets, and miscellaneous. And so this is a screen grab from the layout section of the layout interface. So today we're going to be talking about accordion widgets, tabs widgets, custom HTML, and what else? The other one. Columns. Oh. Columns. Okay. So great. And so oddly, many of these fall under, like 3 of those fall under the miscellaneous widgets tab. So they likely should be called display widgets. So adding widgets to a page, throughout our presentation we're going to show you how to do that, but in case you wanted to find out more about adding widgets to a page, you can go here. All right, so Joe is going to come up and talk about tab widgets now. And then after each one of the widgets, we're going to open it up for Q&A, so you can ask specific questions about those widgets, and then we're going to repeat your questions so it can be heard by the people on the recording after the fact.
So hi everybody, I'm Joe. I've met most of you before. Today I'm going to talk about the tabs widget. Tabs widget is a widget that allows you to put groups of information in tabs, so visitors can quickly sort by different categories of content. You can use this when you have a set of lists or some longer information or page information. So we can take a look at some tab widget examples. Here. See the Weatherhead Center, Kristen, right there. So publications are sorted by journal articles versus books. Also recent publications. And let's check out another one. So that was an example of a list, using a list. And here on the HILT website, here's an example of just using some text and to categorize SPARK grants here. Process. There are two different examples there. Okay, so we do have documentation. I'll just show you this real quick. On our documentation website, docs.openscholar.harvard.edu, you can come here and it'll kind of take you step by step of how to create it. I'm actually going to take you today through a demonstration on how I would go ahead and create that. So there's just some things to think about when creating the tab widget. Think about the categories in advance before you get started. One thing you need to do is create the existing. Oh, sure, go ahead.
I'm sorry. Tell us like why you use it instead of navigation.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So we'll get to that, and we'll compare it to why you would use tabs over the accordion widget too. So the tabs widget uses existing widgets, so you want to create those first, and you also want to arrange the order of the tabs that's kind of intuitive for the users. Let me take you through an example, and then we can just compare it to other displays and see why this one would make sense. Okay, cool. Not in the way. Okay. Great. So on the site, am I logged in here? On the site, I have different news articles that I've created or imported. And what I've done is I've gone ahead and tagged these. Looks like we're a little slow here. There we go. What I've done is I've tagged these different news articles with terms from a vocabulary I created called news categories. All fun. Help a little bit. Move this out of the way. There we go. Okay, you can see I created 3 different categories for my news articles: arts and culture, campus and community, science and health. I got these from the Gazette. They look familiar. And so this might be a review for many of you, but you click on one of these terms, and then we go ahead and edit one of these news items. Next, you'll be able to see that the term is associated with the news post. Give it a second. A little slow today. Let's try one more time. Yep, so you can click right on, with news articles, you can click right on the edit drop-down, and that'll take you to all the information, and you can see where I've tagged this particular news item with arts and culture. And I've done this for all of my news items. So that's kind of the pre-planning. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to figure out where this is going to go, and I've decided that it might look good on the news and events landing page. So I'm thinking about my taxonomy. I'm saying, well, why don't I display a tabs widget so people can kind of pick and choose which kind of news they're looking for. So I've decided that the next thing I'm going to do is go ahead and I'm going to use lists of posts, create 3 separate widgets, which will be the content within the tabs itself. So why don't I do that? I can go right into the layout for this page. Okay. And list of posts. Arts and culture. Now I'm going to configure this to show news, date. I'm actually going to look up here. It's easier to see. Now I'm going to filter on the term. I'm going to say I just want to do kind of featured news. So I'm just going to do it to 4, which is kind of a small amount. Okay, that looks good. And culture. And why don't I put the title in as well? All right, so I'm done with that. And bear with me for 2 more of these. Oops. Posts. News. User news post. This is going to be campus and community. Paste that in there. Change this to 4. Save that. Right, so now we got 1 more to do. Change this to news. These categories, science and health. There, change it to 4. Okay, so we're done. So one of the things that I'll just touch upon later is whether to use the more or the pager. But right now, we'll leave it blank. So we'll come back to that. Okay, so now we have our 3 list of posts widgets. Next step is to create our tabs widget, which is essentially just a container for these widgets. So I'm going to go here, and I'm going to create tabs widget. And I'm going to call it news by category. I'm going to leave the title blank. I'll show you why. You can add a title, but I'll leave it blank. So now we're going to find our widgets. Oops. In this big list here. Arts and culture. We're going to add campus and community. And
that order is the order in which you're adding these widgets?
it is, yeah. It'll go left to right. Science and health.
You can drag them. Can we show how you can drag?
Yeah, definitely. So
You can reorder them if you
yeah, anytime you see this cross, means you can drag them.
collections.
Yeah, collection means the group of widgets that comprise the tabs widget.
Okay, so that.
Yeah, just within this tabs widget is your collection.
That's a new UI change. That you said.
Yeah, it's relatively
Oh, yeah, I remember. It's listed. Okay. Yeah, I keep getting better and better. You're right.
It's hard to define what's new sometimes because things are new all the time. The last part is just to drag our news. This is our tabs widget. Drag it right into the layout, and we're going to see what that's going to look like here. Okay. Great. So we have arts and culture, campus and community, and science and health. We might want to do.
The news and events, that news and events header is a part of the page content. It's not a part of the tab.
Exactly, yeah. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a title to this tabs widget, so to give it some context that people can filter by category. And so when I do that, might help a little bit. There you go. So people come to the news and events landing page. They can see like a calendar, mini cal, get the events, and they also can know that they can filter news by category.
Well, how about with the one people?
Well, on the HIP one, they have like 8 of them. So.
But it's still going to send a single horizontal line, or is it cascade like that?
I think it will wrap underneath, and that's generally not a best practice. We generally like to limit them to straight across, but
They're very consistent. Yes, they're wrapped. What is particular?
yeah.
Okay, so there's okay.
Just like on the primary menu, you know, if you have too many, you'll just pull it out. That creative with the naming of the title of the widget that is inside of the tabs widget.
All right. So when I'm opening up taxonomy, I'm going to actually go back to my new categories terms here. And I'm going to actually take the URL of this page, copy. And so for arts and culture, I know I have more than 4 widgets. I didn't put a pager. I didn't put a more link. But since I said I just want to feature 4, what I envisioned for this page is that somebody would see the latest 4 sort of featured news articles. Then I have an opportunity to see all the other articles that are tagged with arts and culture. So I'm going to put a more link, but not to the whole news section, but just to more of arts and culture news. So I'm going to edit this widget, and I'm going to show more link. And you see it defaults to this URL, which shows all news. But I'm going to put in the URL for just the arts and culture news. I'm not going to do this for all 3, but I'll just show you on this. And so my more link here will show all the news. I think there's 6, so there's not too many more, that are tagged with arts and culture. One thing I might want to do is go back and make a more specific title. So view all arts and culture news. All right. So you can see how that looks. Okay, so now my user comes to this page, they're scanning the featured articles, but now they know they have the opportunity to view all articles within this topic. And take them there. Now I don't usually use Pager in the main content area unless there's a lot of content. If it's in a sidebar, maybe. But I think if you're going to use Pager, I think it might be better for the user to see a lot more. Sure. Yeah, so a pager, what a pager does is the little arrows on the bottom that take you to the next page of results. Yeah, it sort of paginates. So if you set it at 4, right, it'll show 4 and then 2 in the other. I'm sorry?
On mobile device and
Yeah, that's a good question. With the tabs, yeah. Let's go back. All right, so let's see. Looks on a mobile device. 6. Yeah, the tabs will stack. What will happen? So with the 3 HWP themes, there are responses. So if you use the tabs widget in a different theme, I can't guarantee that it will do that. Probably won't do that. Yeah, what it did is it actually wrapped. It looks kind of funny because it actually wrapped underneath the image. Yeah. What I'll do to fix this is I'll just reset where the line break is a little bit. So maybe I'll put it here. And so oops, did that work? There we go. So by putting the line break there, it adds a little more text to the teaser view, and that hopefully will set the read more in its right place. Yeah, so some.
Or no, just saying the post. I have lists and lists of, last time I did the research advisor had all these different deadlines for grants for different things to apply to. Everyone has a responsible role. And some places it's fine, doesn't matter if they go away, I can use comments to tell the difference between, but in other places where it's just not quite as organized and like the deadline's always bold at the end and things are different between, it gets really hard to.
Yeah.
Each other text gets stripped out.
Yep.
Yeah, so is there an option?
You could add.
There's an
add a cross border to paragraph tag.
So there's an HTML way to do it, but it's just not very intuitive. So we could talk afterwards.
And then I just had one other question about the tabs again, which is back to the research area.
Okay.
They have a lot of breakdowns with research opportunities, and some will be for summer programs. They'll say U.S. and abroad. But so far I've done, they're all under research opportunities and broken down into another group. But I'm thinking, does it make sense to use the tabs? Can you put it as long posts in a tab?
Yeah, you can put a long post in a tab as opposed to other kinds of widgets. But I'll be happy to talk. I just want to move forward so we have time.
Because I think accordion would be better. Just going to demo accordion for that. Because you're right. You're thinking about length versus kind of width tabs, and it does a great job of displaying your information displayed with accordion. Each spot is up and down.
Yeah. So let me just grab some dummy text here. Right. Very good. So on my research page, I'm going to put an accordion widget. This is much more simple. So underneath here, I have this idea. I want to put our research projects in an accordion widget, so someone can scan through them. So it's sort of the same process. So I'm going to go into the layout of this page, and I'm going to create 3 widgets. I know we're ahead of the game, but I'm going to create custom HTML widgets, which is just text. So we'll copy and paste filler text in here. All right. So we'll do the climate page. Here. Nope, no, usually sometimes the title is what you want the public to see, and the description is for administrative, more administrative purposes. Just do.
You have so many widgets that you'll create over the course of building your website that, even though official name might you might know, you might think, oh, I'll know what that is, but you might want to say, something, name it homepage. If you know that that widget is going to live on the homepage, you might. So the description is a good way to give yourself notations or comments in there. That's how I get them. Right.
Remember what kind of widget or
Okay. All right, so I created 3 widgets, custom HTML widgets. Now I'm just going to create my accordion widget. project areas. Copy and paste this. Change. I'm just adding the widgets. Functional medicine. Spelled it wrong, but in the real world that would fix that.
Great question. I don't know.
I don't think so.
If it's not alphabetical, there must be something. I think it's like type, because the menu, I thought when you was grabbing them, the menu was up, and there's a category of
But
the alphabetical. It has some sense.
so I just drag that in, and now somebody would have the ability to view all the different research project areas. And you could actually put, the intent here is for the content not to be too long, so it drives what's in the individual area down. But I usually recommend like short blurbs with a link if need be. So I put, like I said, a link to these projects' websites. Absolutely. You can absolutely. Oh, okay. That would be a good feature. Right now, you can use a featured post widget. That will essentially take a page and put it in there. But I think that's a good. Be a good feature to put up there. So we'll just take you through some of these examples. Okay, so here's an example of an accordion widget. It's kind of the idea where I got projects from. So there's basically a blurb about different projects. We'll take a look at one more. Freshman Dean's office, and someone wants to browse different dorm amenities from these different dorms. They can easily scan through the name of the dorm and just see sort of a short little overview of the amenities offered.
Well, I think that what you could do, her question was, I have to remember, was to repeat our question, the WebEx. I think, the rule of thumb, you could have multiple tab widgets or accordion widgets across different pages that highlight different types of whatever it is. You can have as many as you want. You could put headings from each one of them, and so you categorize them either on a long page or in different sections. That's what I would suggest. Like Joe was saying, break them up by topic. Somehow figure out what's different about all the content. And then, in this case, they put them alphabetically, so it made it easier. There's like dots and
Yeah, and you got to think about the end user. The idea of the accordion is convenience for them to scan through the topics or the. And if there's too many, I think it could be a little overwhelming. Although having content show it makes the page even longer. But sure.
Does opening one always close another?
It does, yeah. Just make sure.
Is there a similar tool that doesn't do that? That opening one will, if another one's already open, it will stay open until you close it?
This is the only tool that I can think of that does that. You can set the accordion widget to default to having the first one open by default. That's a lot of people do. But generally, when you click one, the others close and just shows the one. Again, that could be some kind of feature or setting. If you look in the settings, you'll see the setting to make the first one open by default.
Is the keyboard is the accordion widget keyboard navigable?
Good point. sure.
It's a design pattern that I've been seeing on a number of sites, including some of our own, not in OpenScholar, but on other platforms. And I've encountered many of them where it's not keyboard navigable. It's often taking something like something that in the absence of CSS would be like, let's say, some sort of list, and so like all the content would be displayed. So like a total fallback is all the content is displayed, but once you add the styling and JavaScript and so forth, all the content is hidden.
Yeah.
But there's like an on-click behavior that can't be invoked by keyboard access. So if you don't have a mouse or a cursor, you can't do the action. So like you'd be forced to disable everything just to get at the content.
I think that's a great idea. I don't really like using the mouse. I would like to use the keyboard as much as possible. So, but I don't think that I need to test that. I'm not quite sure. If I tab to it, I don't know how to open it, but definitely the content is searchable. So.
All right, I have to kick Joe out now. You're running behind as usual. So many good questions and lots of good learning. But I'm going to quickly go and just talk about the custom text HTML widget. So the custom text HTML widget almost acts as like a small page, and there's a lot of different examples here. I put 4 of them, so as you can see. On the Hewitt site, down here, this is a custom HTML widget, and they just used a list of links, and they used some kind of cutesy iconography to make it seem like it's much more fancy than it is. If we were to open this up, it's really just links, a set of links. And then over here on the economics page, down at the bottom, this whole thing is a custom text HTML widget. So this is an image and then just text underneath it. Here on the African American Studies page, these are just blocks of content or of custom text HTML widgets bumped up against each other in the layout view. So it looks like it might be something else or more fancy, but it's just simply a list of links, and the way she did it in layout was just push them up against each other in the layout view. And then lastly, on our website, on the HWP website, I should say, this is a custom HTML widget, and you think it's going to play a video, which it totally could, but I've sort of tricked the system just to redirect me, so just a screenshot of the video itself. And so when I click on it, it takes me to the page where the actual video lives, because I didn't really want people to watch the video in that small thumbnail. I wanted just to redirect it there. So quickly, I'll show you what happened to it? So I'm going to quickly just show you how to create a custom text HTML widget. So I'm on the home page. I'm just going to simply go up to Build and then to Layout. And you'll see here I've got the option, just like with all the other widgets, they're in a list. And this one is technically a content widget, so I'm just going to click it. And as you can see, it has the same WYSIWYG characteristics as a page does, or most of the other widgets do. So here I'm going to just put cat video. And then from here, I'm going to opt to put in media. So if I go here, you'll see that I've got the option of uploading a photo or connecting to embedding something from the web or pulling something from my library. So I already uploaded the video, so it's sitting in my library. So I can just click there. Insert. And so now it's ready to go. And just like with all the widgets you create, you know, when you create them, they'll be up here in this unused widget gallery. And so I can simply drag it into the layout of my page. And so I've just dragged it into the sidebar here. And when I go home, you'll see that my video is here, and I can change the size. But what people often think is that you have to use any kind of widget in a sidebar, and what Joe showed us that you can kind of use it in body content. So if I just simply drag this to the middle, it will adapt, and it can be the main content on my page if I want it to. So when we're thinking about creating these, you know, contently in your case where you want to display different things, like you're thinking about, well, I have these pages and how will I do this? Well, you can use widgets in place of page content, and I think that could meet some of your needs. So basically it's the custom HTML widget is the most versatile. There it is. You can see now it's in the page content. And again, I can expand the video to make it a little bit bigger. All right, so with that, I'm going to give it to Eric, and Eric's going to talk to us about columns widget, and we're kind of running low on time, but then after that, I'm going to talk about kind of layout in general, and then we'll open up to questions for the group.
Hi, I'm Eric, Eric Beorder, Project Manager at Harvard Web Publishing, for those of you I haven't met.
And Eric's our new co-organizer of ABCD.
That's right.
Congratulations.
I do it all for the applause. So I'm excited to talk about the columns widget. I'm going to try to get through it pretty quickly, but the reason I'm excited is that it really opens up some new layout possibilities. You know, in the past, we were pretty confined. So if I go to the home page, for example, am I not logged in here, Bree? I think I do. I do.
I locked Eric out of the site. Sorry about that.
So one thing similar to the columns widget, that's similar between the columns widget and the tabs and accordion widget that we've talked about, is that it's another widget that contains other widgets. So the columns widget itself won't necessarily appear on the screen unless you've actually added widgets to it. So like those other ones, you generally need to add the widgets that are actually going to contain the content, whether they're custom HTML widgets, a list of posts widget. You generally will want to create those first, then go and create the columns widget and start adding those widgets to it. But to give you a sense of kind of the possibilities that it opens up, if I go to like the layout page for the home page, you know, in the past we sort of have these three columns down here, you know, a main column here, a column here on the right. And so what that means is that, let's see, if I just want an example. You know, let's say you went with like the three-column approach like we have here on the FAS homepage. In the past, that meant then that you basically have these three columns, and that's it until you get to the footer. You couldn't, for example, have, you know, 3 items here and then have another section that spans the entire width. With the columns widget now, that kind of stuff does become possible. And so let me just show you a couple other examples where we're actually using the columns widget. So other things that become possible now with the columns widget is different size columns. So on the FAS page, they were all the same width. Now with this, we're using the columns widget, and so we've got this, in this case, it's 25%, 50%, 25%. Another example I can show you. Yeah, I will. I'll jump in there and show it to you. So here for the Office of Federal Relations, we now have, I think, 66% and then 33%. And you can see in this case, then we do alternate. So we go from this wider column here to a smaller column there to then having 3 additional ones underneath it. So yeah, let me log in 20 pages. So here, if I go to edit this columns widget, in this case, we just have this Washington updates widget in the wider column. That's just a list of posts widget showing news items. And then over here, we've got a few different things. And this is maybe a Twitter feed, or actually I think it's news items, but that are tagged Gazette. This is just a custom HTML widget, and then here's the Twitter feed. And so you can see up here, here's all the different options for how many columns and what percentages you can have them. And I think that pretty much is going to cover just about everything you could want. I guess maybe you could want 10 columns, but I think it's probably a harder use case to come up with. Yeah, I think for the most part that's it. I can go and show you.
So if you want to change the proportions and things, you just matter of clicking on one of those choices.
Yep, and so I'll show you. I won't save it. So let's say I want to do it into 3 columns. If I click that, you'll see these kind of just moved over there. I want to do 5 columns, it'll adjust. You know, if I intend to go down to fewer, there might be times then where some of them actually switch into one of the other columns. They just have to, you know, rearrange them again. But yeah, that's basically how you would change it. So from the layout page, columns widget is just kind of down here with the accordion and tabs widget. There's the columns widget. You generally will start out by making a selection of whichever arrangement you want. And then here we luckily have this filter thing, so I can type in news and it'll actually start to filter it down. And then it's literally just dragging and dropping. Okay. Great question. So if I take a look back here, so the home page columns. So the Capitol building was just an additional tab here. So you can see, although we've got columns, I'm actually just using this main section here. I'm not actually using any of in the past, in order to use columns, we had to use one of these things, maybe stick some stuff over there. Now I'm just using just the main section here. The Capitol building, I think this is just a custom HTML widget where I've got an image and then text. And then underneath that, what I've called homepage columns are this main bit of columns here. Then you can notice now we've got these 3 columns. Even that is also itself a columns widget. Just of even numbers. Now I could have, instead of using an additional columns widget, could have just started to stick those widgets into these 3 columns. Okay, that would achieve the same thing. The only difference though is that in this case, if I started to do that, then I'd be confined to just having 3 columns down the page until you get to the footer. I can't actually change things up. But in this case, we did then want to have, not really formatted all that great, but we then did have this section that spans the entire width. So by using a columns widget there for those 3 columns, we can then revert back to something that's taking up the full width because we're still in this full width section.
So in the roadmap, at some point, will the interface be updated so that you can, that looks like your, in one section?
You have to click into that homepage columns to see
it.
Which one of the layouts there are.
So, we do have, and I should see if this is something they're working on. In general, we're working on a whole admin UI overhaul. And I know that the widget section is going to be a big part of that. One thing that I could imagine being helpful is that, along with some things getting their unique icons up here, maybe down here, this kind of would reflect that it's a columns widget. I don't know that it's going to really show you, 66%, 33%, but perhaps we could give a bit more indication that it is a columns widget. Beyond that, I'm not sure how feasible it is to show a lot more.
But that icon that you're using, then, just showing that icon again, in that thing, that could be very helpful.
Color rate to be the same color as the icon.
Right, this interface, I'm
do it one way and do it right the first way, the first time around. Does anyone have any questions about columns? Because then I'll get into responsive if you feel like.
Not necessarily about columns, but I actually had a question about your custom.
Oh yeah, sure, what's up?
The one like.
Oh yeah.
So I wanted to be able to do custom CSS or JavaScript. Is there some way through the custom /HTML to do that? Like even putting, like you wrote, like building it somewhere else, inserting it, or creating it?
There is. Why don't I talk to you about that when we get to our sort of question?
Yeah, the question is
Yeah.
how do you do custom HTML, CSS stuff? Okay, so just to wrap up here, so there's more information on columns here in these slides if you want to go back and take a look. But Nalaja McCoy, who works at HWP, she put together a layout and responsive view because as we start thinking about, displaying these widgets, we thought it would be a good opportunity to talk about layout and responsive. So here we have a view, a desktop view, and as she says, if I put this block here, because it's important, it's good to know what's going to happen when you go down to responsive view. So it actually, this is important content, this is important content, and as you'll see, unfortunately, it's stacked at the bottom, so it all of a sudden loses its importance once it goes responsive. But, and that's because of this reason. It's stacked based on regions, so this is region 1, 2, 3, and 4. And so in responsive view, it will list or stack 1, 2, 3, 4. But when we use the columns widget, this fixes, it's a solution to solve this problem. So she says, fix this by creating new regions on the page with the columns widget. Make one for the content that needs to be at the top of the page, and one for content that needs to be at the bottom of the page. And then stack them on top of each other. So this, and she shows examples, this is what it would now work in a desktop if you were to use the columns widget. So you can see this is the desktop view, it's the same layout, the slideshow with this widget. And now, because she put them in columns, she's able to push this one and give it priority by doing that. Because you can't get around the system wanting to follow these rules, because technically sidebar content wouldn't be as important, but if it is to you, you have this workaround. I would say that this is rather appropriate normally under normal circumstances, because this would be like office hours or like quick links or something maybe not as important. But to get around that, you can just use the columns widget, and so we have that information here. So, who has questions? I can't really answer too many questions about these slides because they weren't created by me, but I can try. And then we'll open it up to questions, general questions, I guess. Anybody? Yeah?
So I wanted to put a second calendar in, that's the research-only calendar versus say life sciences.
Sure.
That would be.
Okay, so Lee's question is about calendaring. So I think what I'll do is I'll turn off recording now, and then we'll kind of run around and talk to everyone individually about questions, if that's cool, because I know we're kind of at the end here. But thank you again for coming. We're going to post this online probably in a couple days, and I'll send out a link alerting everyone. All right, thanks.
Questions? I think Bree's going